Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest taught writing and publishing at Harvard University, is a book coach, and wrote the books Breathe, Write, Breathe, 18 Energizing Practices to Spark Your Writing and Free Your Voice, and The Joy of Writing Journal. Her name is Lisa Tenner, and my interview with Lisa will follow the note-taking sounds. Lisa Tenner, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Thank you, Aaron.
You taught writing and publishing as a faculty member of the Harvard Medical School's CME publishing course. What does CME stand for in that particular context, and what was it like teaching writing and publishing at Harvard?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. So CME is continuing medical education. So it was mostly doctors, but there were also psychotherapists, nurses, social workers, other people in the healthcare professions. And they came as part of their annual continuing medical education. They would get credits for it. And we would teach them about writing book proposals. I taught an advanced class on how to write a book proposal. I taught writing workshops and also taught them about blogging, social media, growing their platform, the kind of things that publishers were going to be looking for. And one of the really fun things was we would each have a table at the course and really be there for the participants as they were thinking through their book ideas. So throughout the course, as they got exposed to more ideas about publishing and about communicating with a trade audience, so an audience of people who were not necessarily doctors, at the more general public, other ideas would come up, and they'd come by our tables and ask us for feedback on the ideas, and we would help them kind of formulate what a book that might be marketable might look like, or what kinds of things of their ideas seem to maybe be the most likely to generate interest. And so it was a lot of fun and a lot of variety in the kinds of things people were writing.
Your most recent book is titled Breathe, Write, Breathe, 18 Energizing Practices to Spark Your Writing and Free Your Voice. Without spoiling too much of Breathe, Write, Breathe, what is it about?
So Breathe, Write, Breathe is really offering exercises to get us into a creative flow state. And I use these exercises with writers all the time, but you can use them for other creative processes too. And I use them with, there are people who are lifelong writers, and there are people in my courses who have mostly done something else as an expert in that, but they're looking to do some writing, whether it's writing their podcast scripts or writing a book or writing articles or blog posts. So the book really helps, and also can be writing more creative, like poetry or short stories or essays. So it's really for writing anything. And the idea is using these practices from Qigong and yoga and other practices as well that help. Often they're movement oriented. Sometimes they're more of a guided visualization. Often the movement oriented ones there's a mindfulness element to them. And it's really proven that these types of things, the movement as well as the breathing and the mindfulness, all help us enhance our creativity and get us into a flow state. So it's really fun. Each chapter sort of has a story, and often taking us back to these, kind of insights and lessons into writing and other creativity. And then a practice that also relates to the story. And in each of those practices, then there's a bunch of prompts that follow. And somebody could use any of the prompts and just start from scratch with some fun project. And you can also just use those practices to go right into a flow state for, if you're writing a book, for the next chapter you're working on too. So you can use it either way. You can move around in the book, but they're fun. and it uses QR codes. So you can read the practice, but you can also just go use the QR code and with your phone and go right to a video and do the practice with me. Or for the audio meditations, just scan it with your phone, scan the QR code, and then be led through a meditation. So it's like getting a whole workshop and retreat in a book.
Now, regarding the QR codes, is that in the paperback is there a hardcover version, or is just the only physical version paperback?
So there's the paperback, but there is also an ebook and a Kindle. And if you do the Kindle version, there's a link. So it does have the link that you can go to my website and watch the video or listen to the audio. So you don't have to use the QR codes.
Okay, well, I had honestly never thought about putting QR codes in a paperback or hardcover book until now. So
Hmm.
I'll have to make a mental note of that. What motivated you to write Breathe, Write, Breathe?
Well, I got the idea in a Qigong class, and just whenever I was doing Qigong, I found that these ideas just flowed, without my really trying, and started giving me ideas for like these stories to write down. And as I got the ideas, then it just naturally turned into a book. But I also used these Qigong exercises after I got the idea, I guess. I started to use these Qigong exercises with my students and in my Bring Your Book to Life program and my Get Your Writing Done program, and found that people said, I get my best ideas in this class. It's so much easier to write. And so, that reinforced the idea of really getting this book out there and giving people these ways to access their creativity and write with greater ease and write their best stuff.
What sets Breathe, Write, Breathe apart from other books that provide writing advice?
Well, it's very experiential, right? Because, they're doing some kind of movement or listening to this visualization or meditation. And then, they're writing, there are prompts in it. So it's very engaging, I think. And because there are a number of prompts, you don't have to do every single one. You pick what really inspires you. So I think there's that. And I think that, you know, e- every writer has their own unique voice, hopefully. And I think there's a way that people really feel like they have this coach and teacher when they read that book. It really comes alive for them and they improve as writers. So I've gotten that feedback a lot. One person on Amazon compared the book to uh, the The Artist's Way, which I was a great compliment to me because that was a book that really influenced me and my creativity. So that was really fun. I've also heard it compared to Writing Down the Bones, Natalie Goldberg, which is another real classic. And the one who compared it to The Artist's Way said that they felt it was, well, more current, certainly, but also that it provided her even more direction as a writer. So she really loved it. So that's really fun to get that kind of feedback, having it compared to these classics that for me were very inspiring books.
You've also written The Joy of Writing Journal. Is that book a journal, a book that discusses the topic of journaling, or a combination of both?
Well, it's mostly a journal with like very brief introductions to each prompt, just something a little maybe personal from me or, a little bit of insight or inspiration to get started. And then every prompt is different. There are 30 prompts in the beginning. So, for a month, you'll get a prompt a day. And then the expanded edition, which is the one that is now on Amazon, also has helps you write your own prompts for the next 30 days. So it gives you prompts to write your prompts, and so you could create your own journal, which is fun. And then one of the nice things about this journal is it has space for you to write. It has lined pages, and uh, when you when you work through it, most of the prompts will give you an exercise of writing a list of 5 or 10, sometimes 7 items, right, in response to the prompt. So then when you actually choose something to write about, you have a few choices and you can go where you're inspired. But let's say you make a list of these 10 and then, you pick one and write about it. Well, you could come back for another 9 days and use that same prompt, right? So there's a richness to it. You need another notebook to add those, but it I think makes it very long lasting, very productive for people. And then there are also QR codes in that book. So that book, it has some guided meditations or visualizations, but it also has a lot of videos of other people answering the questions or responding to something related to the question. And it's got New York Times best-selling authors. It's got, young people just out of college. It's got people who are experts in their field, people who have written a long time, people who are new to writing. So it's really fun because I think everybody can find some people or responses they relate to. And a lot of the videos will have several people answering the question or responding to the prompt. And there's a playfulness and a spontaneity about those videos. So what I like about that is I wrote it during COVID, and I think during COVID people needed connection, right? And that was like something missing often in people's lives. And I think it's still something that we're often looking for. And the videos make you feel like you're not just writing alone. You're part of a community. And there's a delight with some of these videos and people's answers and responses. So it might make you laugh. It I think puts you into a more elevated state before you do the writing. And it also gives you something additional to respond to. So I think it's very inviting. It's fun. If you don't know what you want to write about, it'll give you lots of ideas to start from to get you going. And sometimes we need that.
Are both of your books independently, traditionally, or hybrid published, or did you use different publishing methods for each of your books?
So my very first book was traditionally published with Health Communications, which is the original publisher for Chicken Soup for the Soul. And so that was traditionally published, and it was a good experience. We sold over 20,000 copies of the book, and I learned a whole lot. For the Joy of Writing Journal, I knew I wanted to self-publish because I knew I wanted to do like 30 QR codes and, they would all lead back to my website. And I knew that was something a publisher wasn't going to go for. And I also wanted to get it out quickly. I felt like the time was now, people needed the book. And as a book coach, I know how long it takes to go from, uh, a book deal to actually getting the book out and published, and it can take a long time. So I wanted to do it quicker, and I wanted those QR codes. And so I published with a friend and colleague of mine, Tamara Manasoff, who has actually published the books of quite a few of my clients. She's the person who originally gave me the idea of the QR codes, and she put all the videos for the QR codes on my website. So she took care of a lot of the tech. She also did a marketing strategy. So it was a really nice collaboration, and she did a beautiful cover for the book. And I originally was thinking Breathe, Write, Breathe, I would traditionally publish, but I had such a good experience self-publishing with her. I decided to self-publish the next book as well. And so Breathe, Write, Breathe was self-published. But as you know, there's not necessarily as much cachet off the bat with a self-published book. So I decided to go for some book awards. And the Joy of Writing Journal won 5 prestigious book awards. It won the Nautilus, which a lot of those books that win the Nautilus are traditionally published, but it won, but they don't have to be. And mine was a case of a self-published book that won the Nautilus. It won the Ben Franklin Award. It won the Independent Publisher Award, which also a lot of those are smaller traditional publishers, but it's also self-publishers, a mixture. And so it won a bunch of awards. And then I decided, well, let's do the same thing for Breathe, Write, Breathe. And I entered some contests, and it won 9 awards in 5 different book awards contests, and including Book of the Year from the Stevie Awards for Women in Business, and we've entered a few more awards this spring. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. So hopefully I'll have some more to report as well. But yeah, it's been a wonderful journey. And I do think book awards are a wonderful way, if you are a self-published author, to get that cachet and help people know, okay, this book is vetted and there's something special about it. So it makes it stand out from the crowd.
Your own creative process is a bit unique and powerful, and you've kind of mentioned some of it earlier on in the interview. But can you share how your creative process works?
Sure. So it varies from time to time. It won't always be the same. But one of the things I love to do is when I get up in the morning, I remember my dreams. If, you don't always remember them, but often. And so I start with what I dreamt, writing in my journal what I dreamt. And that might even lead to kind of exploring what the dream was about. I might dialogue with the dream character or write a poem, like whatever gets inspired from that. And then if I'm working on a book, I go directly from that to the book. Or I might go with one of my books and use one of the prompts in one of my books, if I'm not working on a specific project at the time. So there's a lot of room for, playfulness in there. I also, when I work in my book writing classes, we do a process of that mindful movement, which we often do qigong bouncing and shaking if you've ever experienced that, but you get into what's called a natural stance. So the whole body gets to relax as you kind of bounce up and down, and then you shake your hands kind of in front of your body and to the sides and up high. And that's a beautiful, beautiful process. And we do some other movement as well. And then we set our one word intentions. Sometimes they're more than a word, but it could be focus or clarity or playfulness, whatever you're feeling that day you want to bring into the writing. And somebody usually reads those aloud when we're in class. And we also connect with the muse, right? It's just acknowledging that inner creative source. And then we write. We write for 45 minutes in class, and then we get back together. And there's always a moment of gratitude. And one of the reasons I really focus on that gratitude is because I find that even if you have a challenging time writing on a particular day, if you end with gratitude, it's reinforcing what does work. And it's reinforcing that even if I didn't write as much as I wanted, or I wasn't as crazy about what I wrote, I'm finding what I am grateful for, what did work. And the more we focus on what did work and feeling grateful for that, the more we get back from our creativity, right? And we reinforce that things are working on our creativity, and we get more of that. And so I find that, when people just focus on, oh, I was going to write 10 pages, I only wrote one. Well, when you focus that way, I think it interferes with the creative process. So I think that gratitude is a really important step too. And then it's a 2 hour class. So most people come for 2 hours, some come for one. But then we kind of do that whole thing all over again. We do a little more movement because we've been sitting. And what I find is when you're moving, then any stagnant places in the body kind of get moving again, right? And so then there's more flow. When people are just sitting for hours and hours and hours, you're not getting as much blood flow to the brain, right? And I find that the movement really helps the creative process. So we don't do the intentions again because we usually have the same intention the second hour, but we do a little movement, go back to the writing, and then we have some time to share insights, ask questions. We usually at the break too, the 1 hour break, we have time to ask questions and share what happened or get a little laser coaching. So it's fun.
How did you come up with the idea of incorporating ancient practices from qigong, yoga, and other traditions to boost creative flow?
It was really in Qigong class. So it was kind of an amazing thing. a friend of my mother-in-law's had just studied with a Qigong master and for several years, and she had come back from those studies, returned back to Rhode Island, and she was teaching a class, and she said she was looking for a new place to teach. And there happens to be this Episcopal church in my neighborhood that basically, if I walk through my neighbor's yard, which she does allow me to do, and cross the road, I'm at that church. And I said, well, sometimes they have people teaching classes there. I could ask if they're available, and they were. So she was teaching. Basically, I could roll out of bed and walk up my neighbor's driveway and be there for class. And so, in good weather, we'd be outdoors, and in cold weather, we'd be indoors. But it was just a wonderful experience. And she was teaching at one point four days a week, and I was religious about it. And I found that while we were doing the Qigong, all these ideas would come up, and for my books and for writing little stories about things. And so I would often, because I wouldn't bring a notebook with me, I probably should have. I would just be searching around, like in the church that had a little desk, and I, look for a scrap of paper I could write on and a pen or something like that to jot some notes for these ideas. But I found that it helped me so much with flow. So I started doing it with my book writing clients and found how helpful it was, and realized, oh, I've got to write a book.
One final question for this interview. What is the best advice you could offer for completing an exceptional book or book proposal and choosing the best publishing path?
Oh, wow. So, I don't think there's like a quick answer to that. In terms of choosing, I'll start with choosing the publishing path because that's a quicker question to answer, I think. But in terms of choosing the best publishing path, it really depends on your goals and also what publishers are looking for. So publishers are looking for people who already have a large platform. They're already reaching a lot of people in their target market. And if that's not the case, you either need to build your platform first, or consider self-publishing. But also, if you want creative control, self-publishing may be better if you want to have the book out there quicker, if you want to kind of beta test the book and see, make some changes to it, right? But you want to publish it soon so it has particular results for you or for your business, then you may want to self-publish and get it out there working for your business, getting you speaking gigs or new clients or something like that. I mostly work in nonfiction, but so with fiction it might be a little different. Uh, and then so it depends on your goals, and it depends on your platform, and if you really have what publishers are looking for, or if you're willing to do all that work to grow your platform. So that's like the short answer to the publishing question. But with different clients, I recommend different things. A lot of the doctors I work with, I do recommend traditional publishing because of the kind of goals they have. Uh, so in terms of publishing advice, writing an exceptional book, I would say, to really spend time, I wouldn't write a cookie cutter book, you know, spend time on thinking about what's going to, what, who are your readers, right? And what are your goals? What's your vision, and what readership makes sense for those goals and vision? And then what do those people really want and need? And how can you help them get that? So with a self-help book or business book or how to, some of it is how can you make that book really experiential for your readers, right? Or really transformational? How can you offer transformation? And sometimes it's the stories themselves that really are cathartic, right? And we just relate to them and we experience the catharsis and the transformation through that. But often I think adding exercises or experiences can also help make the book really powerful for your readers.
Lisa, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were a fascinating guest.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for your wonderful questions.
I enjoyed interviewing Lisa, but I have another update regarding the upcoming relaunch of the Apollo Papyrus channel. Although I have made a considerable amount of progress in regards to getting the first few videos produced and the channel set up, I am delaying the relaunch of the AuthorTube and BookTube side of the Apollo Papyrus channel to early September, and this should be the final delay before AuthorTube and BookTube videos are available on the channel once again. I'm still a ways away from being fully set up to relaunch the video side of the channel, and I have a ton of podcast episodes, including what will be the 400th episode of this podcast, to upload throughout the month of August. This is the 380th episode of the podcast, in case you're wondering or keeping count. As always, the Apollo Papyrus podcast is available to listen to on YouTube and YouTube Music, and that will not change. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. Copyright 2025, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.